Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the world, receiving our signals through the magic of the internet created by we the people under the name ARPANET back in the days and now controlled by a whole bunch of billionaires. Look, we've got a substantive show today that got a lot to say. So I want to go ahead and get busy and get directly to the geniuses in the studio. And then we'll begin. Genios in the studio. Good morning, my dear brothers. How you guys doing today?
Good morning, Egberto. Just one genii here today.
Oh, just one genii today. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, sir.
Good. Talk to me.
All right. Billionaires control the government, the economy, and the media. Our modern-day oligarchs, Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg, are seeking total domination. Sanders calls for progressives to unite against this rigged system to reclaim democracy with political engagement like, I would say, every time the right twists the truth, there needs to be a progressive there to challenge the mistruth and the lies and correct the narrative to the citizens left and right.
I could not agree more with you, my dear brother. You're absolutely right. And thank you for giving the preface to what we're going to talk about today, my dear brother. Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great show for you. I have two videos that I want to play first, and I want to try to get to all of these. And then I want to discuss an article with some additions called How to Cut the Billionaires Behind This Coup Down to Size. And, you know, I changed up the show early this morning because I was listening to Anand Hidades from The Ink, and his commentary was, America is really not the land of the brave after all. But I'll probably tackle that tomorrow. But that is what made me change how I'm going to present what I'm going to present today. But anyway, so without further ado, I want to get started with the first video. And this one is a gift to our MAGA brothers and sisters. I want you to please listen to this one, understand what it is saying without judgment on your part. Because remember, we're in this together. So here we go. I want you to listen to this, and then this is for everybody, but I want our MAGA brothers and sisters specifically to dig into what we're talking about here. The big lies are out there. USAID is a poorly run organization, and it's ripping the people off, and it's full with a whole bunch of liberal crazies, and on and on and on and on. And now Donald Trump and his minions has decimated the USAID, an organization that does so much good around the world. Well, ironically, as USAID is doing great things around the world, and by the way, all those things that it does around the world is actually pre-approved by three different agencies: the Congressional Oversight Committee, OMB, and several other organizations that actually validates what it's actually doing. But I digress. All the good that these organizations do, all the material that they purchase, a lot of it comes directly from where, again, right here in the United States, which means that money that is used to fund USAID actually creates economic activity right here in the United States, because a lot of the food that goes over there is food that our hard-working farmers produce. I want you to listen to Joy and Reid, and then we'll take it on the other side.
It appears as though we have officially reached the find out phase of Donald Trump's presidency, as red states are starting to feel the pain of what actually happens when Trump's plans are put into action. Popular Information is reporting that in Huntsville, Alabama, about 250 customers of a public utilities company received a letter informing them that their account has been debited $100. They say it is a direct result of an executive order signed by Trump that froze a grant meant to assist low-income residents with their energy bills. And Trump's abrupt decision earlier this week to stop minting new pennies may not be going over so well in heavily Republican Greene County, Tennessee, home to the nation's sole manufacturer of penny blanks. And all of Trump and Elon Musk's dismantling of government programs and slashing federal funds, spoiler alert, that's going to hurt red states too. USAID, for example, has a program called Food for Peace, which spends hundreds of millions of dollars buying goods from American farmers and businesses to distribute around the world to help fight hunger. So gutting the agency means hurting farmers in places like Kansas, where the program was founded. On top of that, you have Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, for years, probably Trump's most notorious enabler, now warning his constituents in an op-ed that the tariffs Trump is promising could have negative consequences for the state's 75,000 family farms that sell their crops around the globe, or the hardworking Kentuckians who craft 95% of the world's bourbon, or our auto industry. Joining me now is Angelo Carasone, president and CEO of Media Matters, and Antoine Seawright, Democratic strategist. Who would have thunk it, Angelo, that a lot of these cuts willy-nilly being made by some 20-somethings and the normalized Indian hate guy are going to hurt Trump's own base? Is that message, do you think, getting out beyond just local news? You watch the media.
It's not yet. And that's, I think, the top line takeaway here. One is that, and we know where this is going to go too. So that low income heating program where those people lost that money, that was straight out of Project 2025. I mean, right in the 900-page book, that was one of the programs that they were targeting. So in effect, Trump is just implementing a lot of the things that they've already written and prepared for, which means we know what's coming next, and we know the people that are going to be affected by it, which means there's no excuse for Democrats, for the news media, not to be able to connect the dots. And your question is the important one here, because if we don't help build that connective tissue for his actions to the harms that people are already experiencing, what's going to happen is that because they have narrative dominance and they have that massive megaphone, when people start to ask questions, hey, why is this happening? They're going to blame the deep state, malicious implementation, right? They're going to use that anger and kinetic energy and turn it right back around to gather more power for themselves. So it is both an important opportunity, but we also need to make sure we're telling this story so that we actually prevent them from using it to get stronger.
Absolutely. And, Antoine, you made a video actually that, that sort of walks Democrats through sort of a way to tell this story, not even just on the red state pain, but just on the price increases that everyone is feeling right now. I'm going to play just a little bit of that. Do we have it? Maybe we have a little bit of that.
We will stop inflation. We will make America affordable again. We have tremendous potential in this country.
The president's tariffs are expected to have a major impact on the price American shoppers pay.
Tariffs that could raise prices for many products.
It'll also bring your grocery bill way down.
Consumers can expect to see increases on items like avocados, berries, and meat products.
The word grocery, it's sort of simple, but it sort of means like everything you eat.
With many thanks to our director downtown, Sterling Brown. Here is your article, Antoine. Is Trump ignoring his promises that won him the election? What should Democrats be asking? Where should they be playing that video?
Well, Joy, I can tell you this, as the old African-American proverb tells us quite clearly, we tried to tell y'all. The fact of the matter is what we see now is a governing style of ram, jam, and screw. Ram these government overreach extreme policies down the throats of the American people, jam up the news cycle with multiple things at one time, and screw whatever constituency that will be impacted by these. And quite frankly, I think the American people need to understand that these policies and this government overreach and this extremism does not just impact Democrats. It does not just impact those who may not have been for Donald Trump. It impacts everyone. In my home state of South Carolina, we better known in many places as the battery capital of the world. The largest investments from the Inflation Reduction Act, perhaps in any other state. We've had 2 or 3 announcements where companies will not produce what they said they were going to produce. Just in Georgia a few weeks ago, the same thing. And so I think what's going to happen at the end of the day, if you look at his extremism along with what the Republicans want to do in the Congress with this budget cut in terms of Medicaid, people are going to be hurting, and the people who benefit the most are going to hurt the most, in my opinion, those who voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, who's going to gain the most, Angelo, are, Trump and his family. They're already reaping money. They're selling meme coins. They're personally, enriching themselves. Elon Musk is signing himself up for contracts while canceling Medicaid money.
Yeah, I mean, 800,000 people lost money in that deal. They thought they were going to get rich. They thought they were going to make some money off of Trump's momentum, and they lost it. And that's the nature of a lot of these scams. And that's a part, that's the part about this that makes this even more intense, is that it's not just that they're using policies to directly affect people and harm people and transfer wealth. They're also then using their cultural and social influence to then fleece them and pick their other pocket with these with these other gambits, and that and then further align their pockets. And I mean, they are really successfully managing to double dip in the most odious ways.
Remember, Donald Trump promised on day one he was going to bring down inflation. He was going to lower the price of car insurance and all these other things. And here we have prices of egg, gas, and goods and everything in between are still up. And yet his constituents who voted for him on this notion are the ones who are suffering the most. They're not in blue states. They're not in urban cities. They're in rural America. They're in urban America. They're all over the country. And that's why if you look back and reflect on this election, what people understand is it was easier to be angry than it was informed. Because if you were an informed voter in this election, it was not a policy thing that the president put up that was going to benefit working class Americans as they thought it would have when we tried to make this idea that the election was going to be about economics and microeconomics in particular. Not one person who voted for him is benefiting from that, except that the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected.
So yes, now there are over $2 billion that our farmers need to be paid, that our farmers' products needs to be delivered. And of course, Elon Musk in his infinite wisdom has stopped that. These guys are screwing things over and over again, laying people off that shouldn't be laid off like they did at the Atomic Agency, where now they're scrambling to find those people that they laid off. Folks, when you want to work within government, you should like government, and you should do it with an attitude of positivity, and not that you're attacking those hard workers who work for government. And that is what they're doing right now. That is what they're going to pay the price for, because ultimately speaking, government is not bad. Republican politicians have a good way of, in fact, making government bad, because they depend on making government bad so that they can then use the very inefficiencies to go ahead and add inefficient private sector companies who have a record of ripping off the American people left and, well, I shouldn't say left, right and right is what I should say. The private sector in government has a constancy of ripping off the American people. If you doubt that, you just have to go to anywhere where they've changed transportation from the public sector to the private sector. The service value always drops. Price always goes up. And that is by definition, one doesn't have to ask why. If behind every dollar that's spent on a train ride or whatever, you also have to pay an executive, you have to pay a shareholder and all of that. Where is that going to come from? Higher prices or cut services? Generally both. We have to wise up and not allow ourselves to be fooled. I have another video to play. I wasn't going to take calls until 7:30, but it seems like John is here. So what I'm going to do is bring John in, and then I'll go to the second video. But please, the call shouldn't come until after 7:35. Let's go to John. Come on in, John, line number 1. John, you're on. Talking to John 1. Talking to John 2. John, you are on. I can't hear you. Take the mute off if you can, John. Okay. Since John is not there, let's go ahead and drop John. I'm going to go to the next video. Let's go ahead and get that second video. And this is our good friend Bernie Sanders and his message going forward. we've got some marching orders. Well, politics done right gives you marching orders every day, right? What we have to do to save our democracy. But you know, that guy that we love because he revived the progressive movement in the United States, and he almost pulled it off. He almost pulled it off. He gave what I call the marching orders speech that I want everybody to hear. Now, he's talking about a lot of stuff that we've discussed on this program many times, but coming from this guy, coming from Bernie Sanders, I love the way he articulated it and wrote it. So check it out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I do not often find myself in the habit of thanking Elon Musk, but I must confess that he has done an exceptional job of demonstrating a point that a few of us have been making for years, and that is the reality that we live in an oligarchic society in which billionaires dominate not only our politics and the information we consume from media, but our government and economic lives as well. That has never been clearer than it is today. But given the news and attention Mr. Musk has been getting over the last few weeks as he illegally and unconstitutionally dismantles government agencies, I think it is an appropriate time to ask the question that the media and most politicians don't seem to be asking. What do he and other multi-billionaires really want? What is their end game? In my opinion, what Musk and those around him are aggressively striving for is not novel, it is not complicated, and it is not new. It is what ruling classes throughout history have always wanted and have always believed is theirs by right. More power, more control, and more wealth. And they don't want ordinary people, that's you, and democracy getting in their way. They want it all. Elon Musk and his fellow oligarchs believe government and laws are simply an impediment to their interests and what they are entitled to. In pre-revolutionary America, before the 1770s, the ruling class governed through a doctrine called the divine rights of kings. The belief that the King of England was an agent of God and he was not to be questioned by mere mortals. In modern times, we no longer have the divine right of kings. What we now have is an ideology being pushed by the oligarchs, which says that as very, very wealthy people, often self-made, often as the masters of revolutionary new technology, it is their absolute right to rule. In other words, these modern day oligarchs are our kings. And it is not just power. It's incredible wealth that they have. Today, Mr. Musk is worth $402 billion. Zuckerberg is worth $252 billion. Bezos is worth $249 billion. With combined wealth of over $900 billion, these three people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Not surprisingly, since Trump was elected, their wealth has soared. Musk has become $138 billion richer. Zuckerberg has become $49 billion richer. And Bezos has become $28 billion richer, all since election day. Meanwhile, while the very rich become much richer, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paychecks. 85 million are uninsured or underinsured. 25% of seniors are trying to survive on $15,000 a year or less. 800,000 are homeless, and we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. Do you think for 1 second that the oligarchs give a damn about working people? Trust me, they don't. Musk's decision to dismember USAID means that tens of thousands of the poorest people around the world will go hungry or die of preventable diseases. But it's not just abroad. Here in the United States, They will soon be going after the healthcare, nutrition, housing, and educational programs that protect the most vulnerable people in our country, all so that Congress can provide huge tax breaks for them and their fellow billionaires. As modern-day kings who believe they have the absolute right to rule, they will sacrifice without hesitation the well-being of working people to protect their interests. Further, they will use the enormous media operations they own to deflect attention away from the impact of their policies while they entertain us to death. Mr. Musk owns Twitter. Mr. Zuckerberg owns Meta, which includes Facebook and Instagram, and Mr. Bezos owns the Washington Post and Twitch. Further, they and their fellow oligarchs will continue to spend huge amounts of money to buy politicians in both major political parties. Bottom line, the oligarchs, with their enormous resources, are waging a war against the working class of this country, and it is a war that they are intent on winning. Now, I'm not going to kid you. The problems this country faces right now are extremely serious. The economy is rigged. Our campaign finance system is corrupt, and we are struggling to control climate change, an existential threat to our planet, among many, many other important issues. But this is what I do know. The worst fear that the ruling class in this country has is that Americans, black, white, Latino, urban and rural, gay and straight, young and old, that all of us will come together to demand a government that represents all of the people in our country, not just the wealthy few. The oligarch's nightmare is that we will not allow ourselves to be divided up by race, religion, sexual orientation, or country of origin, and will together have the courage to take them on. Will this struggle be easy? Absolutely not. And one of the reasons for that is that the ruling class of this country will constantly remind you that they have all the power. They control the government. They own the media. You want to take us on? Good luck, they will say. There is nothing you can do about it. But our job right now, in these very difficult times, is to not forget the great struggles and sacrifices that millions of people have waged over the several centuries to create a more democratic, just, and humane society. Think about it. Over the last number of centuries, how many people have stood up and fought? And when they were doing that, you know what their contemporaries said? They said, hey, you want to overthrow the King of England to create a new nation and self-rule? Forget about it. Impossible. You want to establish universal suffrage, the right of all people to vote? Impossible. Can't happen. You want to end slavery and segregation? Impossible. You want to grant workers the right to form unions and end child labor? Can't be done. Impossible. You want to give women control over their own bodies? Who are you kidding? Impossible. Can't be done. You want to pass legislation to establish Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, a minimum wage, clean air and water standards? Impossible. In other words, as Nelson Mandela told us, everything is impossible until it is done. In these difficult times, despair is not an option. We've got to fight back in every way we can. We have to get involved in the political process, run for office, connect with our local, state, and federal legislators, donate to candidates who will fight for the working class of this country. We have got to create new channels for communication and information sharing. We have to volunteer not just politically, but to build community locally. Whatever we can do is what we must do. Needless to say, I intend to do my part, both inside the Beltway and traveling throughout the country, to stand up for working families and to take on the oligarchy. In the days, weeks, and months ahead, I hope you will join me in that struggle. We can win. We will win. We must win.
We absolutely must win. And you know what? We will win, because all of you here are going to form or be a part of that big win. Now, beforehand, I want to say one thing, because, you hear all the time the economic system is rigged and all that kind of stuff. And you hear the words, right? But because of the indoctrination we have received from the time we were born, somehow we believe that this is the way things are supposed to be. But let me just tell you, the formula that governs our economy, everything in life has a formula that governs it. Everything from blood flow in your body to the way plants grow to an economic system. There are formulas that dictate what and how things happen. And let me just give you a simple formula that defines capitalism. This is very important, because capitalism without a strong regulatory structure behind it will always, by design, take your money, and I mean this wholeheartedly. It'll take your money, your wealth, and move it to the few at the top. That is the formula by definition. And let me just give you this. The American economic pie and the world economic pie is constantly growing. Make this picture in your head, a pie, and that pie constantly growing. And let's say that pie is constantly growing at 2 or 3%. But notice that whenever you go to an investor or investment banker or whatever, they'll tell you, we can grow your money at 7%, or we can grow your money at 20% a year, or all these numbers they give you. Well, guess what, everybody? This is simple math. When I tell you that it's a rigged system, simple math. If the economy in the aggregate, in the whole, is growing at simply 2%, and those wealthy people, those who have access to capital, those who have all these stocks and they don't work much, but they have a lot of capital, if they're growing at 7, at 8, 9, 20%, that is coming out of the same pie that is only growing at 3%. And this has been happening for decades after decades after decades. And, we see it, because that means a portion of the pie that all of us in America owns, the working class, slowly gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's what's happening. That is what we call income inequality and wealth disparity. The formula of the current economic system constantly moves our wealth, our income to the top, and we get less and less. That's why it used to be only daddy worked. Then it was daddy worked and mommy worked part-time. And then it was daddy worked and mommy worked. And then it was daddy worked and got a lot of overtime and mommy worked. And then it was daddy worked overtime, mommy worked overtime. Children, as soon as they can work, they get a job, and everybody tries to get that household going. And then it was, we got that household going, but now cousin Ed and cousin Peter moves in to help pay the bills because they can't afford it on their own. And then it keeps moving like that as we have to shrink so that the top gets more. And I mean, if you're an engineer and a lawyer and all of the things are okay so far, but you represent 10% of the country. 80% of the country is in dire straits. 60% of the country lives paycheck to paycheck. We want to solve that problem, but we've been indoctrinated into believing that things had to be the way they are today. Folks, it doesn't have to be. And after I answer these two calls, I'd like you to be quick, my dear brothers and sisters, because there's a solution. But you have to be willing to disregard the indoctrination that you have been told all of your lives. Because, folks, what Elon Musk and Donald Trump is doing to maintain where we're at, we have to make sure it's reversible. All right, let's go to John, line 1. Come on in, John.
Hey, good morning, Egberto. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Are you there?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I didn't know if I was on. All right. So I would like to support the ideas of this program this morning because I lived through it. Back in the 70s, I lived in upstate New York, and I saw the corporations come in and force farmers into certain processes that put a lot of farmers out of business. And what happened was, when the farmers went out of business, then the farms consolidated, and then you had bigger and bigger farms, and eventually corporate farms took over. And the population declined, and everybody's poor, and they're miserable. And now they vote for Lee Stefanik because they didn't learn anything. All right. So with this USAID closure, they're going to put a lot of farms out of business. And what's going to happen is the corporations are going to come in, and they're going to make a lot of money by buying up the farms cheap and consolidating. And then they're going to be able to sell their product for a much higher price. And then the process is going to continue. And it's the same thing. They're going to get rid of Section 8 subsidies. Well, what is going to happen? They're going to bankrupt the small landlords, and then all these properties will be distressed, and they'll go on sale cheap, and the corporations will buy up whole neighborhoods, and then they'll control the market, and the rent will go up. And on and on and on. There's hundreds of examples, but they're doing the same thing. They're causing this disruption in the economy so that they can swoop in and consolidate and make themselves more wealthy for some reason. I don't know why, but that's about it. That's what I had to say.
Well, actually, John, you're right. They are psychopaths. I repeat, they are psychopaths. This has nothing to do with, they have all the money that they could possibly need. But the thing that I'm going to talk about, if I can get to it afterward, is we should have no billionaires. Billionaires, there should be no billionaires because nobody has earned $1 billion. But we'll talk about that let me kind of get through these other 3 calls, John. But you're absolutely right, sir. Thank you so kindly for calling in.
Thanks for taking my call.
All right, let's go to Harry. Harry, you're going to have to be quick, my brother, because I have some other important stuff to talk to.
I'll be as fast as I can. Thanks, Egberto, for taking my call. Good morning, Jack. John, amen. You are right about all of that, for what you said. And amen to Bernie, what he said, and Joanne Reid. I'm going to read something my Florida friend sent me yesterday. Donald Trump is a good president. He is getting things done, helping bring respect back to America. He's not getting things done. He's creating calamity and chaos. And these billionaires, as I heard on the NPR program, want to punish the poor and the ones that don't have it, and they want to erode the middle class, and so they can get themselves richer. And I've told him, you need to listen to stuff like Joanne Reid and Bernie Sanders. He'll say, crazy Bernie, like you hear on the right wing talking point. No, it's not crazy Bernie. It's these crazy billionaires and these crazy right wing people that want to make your lives harder, to make it harder for you to survive.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Harry. Point made. Point made succinctly. Thank you, my brother. Talk to you tomorrow. Let's go to Moses.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, sister. Talk to me.
Okay. The robbers of the people will come to their end. That is not a joke. Consider well the return of this 21st century kakistocracy, rulership by the worst of men. Number 1, Donald Trump is the remnant of German Third Reich. See his playbook based on Mein Kampf. Number 2, Musk is the refuse of apartheid come out of South Africa. Consider well his rage against the black South Africans. As all of the rebellious rulers who have risen against the people have come crashing down into ignominy. The people will rise. The force of nature will rise against them, and humanity will see again the end of the Trump and Musk Reich. Bernie, fear not. This 21st century, Trump and Musk Reich, like their rebellious fathers, they are between two waves of God's rage. Wait till this indignation ceases in their destruction. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly for those words, Moses. I couldn't have said them any better. Let's go to Tag. Come on in, Tag. Real quick, my brother.
I've got a quick one for you. Americans need to learn how to understand when they're being scammed. And the way you do that is evaluate what you're being told, which is they're trying to cut the budget. 2/3 of our budget goes to either defense or servicing the debt. And neither one of those things they're going after. They're going after all this other little stuff. And until they start going after those two line items, you're being scammed. It's just that simple. They're not going to cut the deficit. That's ridiculous. They want to add to the deficit. Again, that's a scam happening to you. So that's kind of what I have to say, Egberto.
Thank you so kindly, my brother Tag. And let me add to what Tag just said there, because when he talks about more than half the budget goes to both servicing the debt, meaning the interest on our debt, as well as the defense, and those are catastrophic. The reason that the interest on the debt is so high is because of all the tax cuts we give, and the same people we give the tax cuts to loan us back the money to make more free money on what they loan us. It's a scam, as he just said it, but too many Americans don't understand it, and because of that, they support all the crap about lower taxes, increased economic activity. Those are all lies. Lower taxes do not increase economic activity. Spending increases economic activity. We can't have runaway spending, but spending does economic activity, not tax cuts. So let's go to Patrick, and then I'll continue. Come on in, brother Patrick.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I believe Tag is from Michigan, so Tag should be calling about minimum wage.
Yes, to Detner, yeah.
Now, the caller before, Harry, described just as I have what billionaires do. They create economic strife so that when we lose our job or get diminished hours or don't get overtime, we start selling off our retirement at a discount. We sell our houses, we sell cars, and it on the supply side, it creates an abundance which crashes all the prices, and they go in and they buy everything at a discount. They're going to do that with your retirement, and that's the plan right now. Is they're after your retirement. Next, we're talking about USAID a lot. There's SNAP and WIC too. WIC, probably the biggest beneficiary of the WIC is dairy farmers. Now, the WIC provides formula, eggs, dairy products to lower income families. But the dairy farmers have a trick. The dairy farmers, if they have an overabundance of a supply, they just throw it out. So what we're doing is we're cutting aid to somebody that needs it by feeding their child what they need. And then the dairy farmers, they might hurt a little bit. Well, what they're going to do is turn around and they're going to increase the price to make up for what WIC isn't buying. So we will be shouldering the price difference that the dairy farmers need to keep that going. So that's something to think about. And there's lots of, that's just one example. There's a whole lot of little things that are happening like that. So that's going to be another way that we're paying higher prices. So $8 for eggs right now will probably be something that we look forward to seeing again when WIC balances itself out and the dairy farmers and the poultry farmers balancing themselves out.
Exactly, Patrick. Go ahead.
Next, were we saying yesterday that propulsion is math?
No, propulsion. No. I mean, I don't know if that's what Brian said, but we all know what propulsion is. Why did you ask?
Yeah, well, I want to ask because that just occurred to me. That's probably why pigeons spend so much time underneath bridges doing calculations so that they can get their airfoils to work.
Okay. All right, Patrick, I got to get into the billionaires now. So let's talk at 3:00, okay?
Yes, sir. Sounds great.
All right. Thank you very much. Folks, look, I want to talk about how to cut the billionaires behind the coup, how to downsize those billionaires that are behind this current coup that's occurring in America. A peaceful coup, it would seem, but far from that reality. Americans these days don't much like billionaires. Our ultra-rich Americans overwhelmingly believe aren't paying enough in taxes. Poland earlier this month found that nearly 3/4 of the nation's likeliest voters, 74%, feel billionaires are paying too little at tax time. Just how concerned about billion-dollar fortunes have Americans become? Nearly half of us overall, Harris poll found last summer, would like to see a limit on wealth accumulation. Among Gen Zers, that support for limits on billionaires' fortunes runs all the way up to 65%. Billionaires, some 58% of Americans agreed in the same Harris poll, are becoming more like dictators. The share of Americans equating billionaires with dictators, given Elon Musk's current dominant role in the new Trump White House, is most likely running even higher. The best way to counter our ongoing billionaire coup? We might want to look east for some answers in run-up to Germany's February 23rd parliamentary elections that nation's left party Die Linke has proposed, a detailed 5-step set of initiatives designed to cut the super rich down to democratic size. Before I read what their 5 points are, I want to let you know, no billionaire, and I repeat, no billionaire has earned it. And cutting billionaires down to size has nothing to do with innovation. Because wherever they decide to sabotage, we the people can clean up any sabotage that they attempt to do with our funding. Instead of giving them a place to accumulate our dollars, we can spend those dollars to the real people that innovate. There are real innovators and they're not billionaires. But continuing, we believe, we believe the Die Linke co-chair Van Aken notes simply in his intro to his party plan that there should not be any billionaires. And I agree. There should not be any billionaires because the monies billionaires have is theft. I know even some of my progressive brothers and sisters disagree with me. And that is because of the indoctrinative state that we are in. But the vast amount of any billionaire's wealth is legal theft. And notice I said legal because it falls under the domain of capitalism, but it is legal theft. All right, continuing. But Van Aken and Die Linke understand quite well that no government can suddenly snap its fingers and make billionaires disappear. The party has instead melded ideas from all around the world into a coherent and common sense package. The Die Linke plan step 1, restoring a wealth tax, meaning if you whatever wealth you accumulate, it should be taxed. In other words, don't keep it in stocks and claim you can only pay taxes on it when you get capital gains and realize the income. Germany has been without one since the nation's top court nixed the wealth tax in effect back in 1995. The proposed new version would revolve around an annual levy at 1% on wealth over 1 million euros, the equivalent of about 1.303 million, and a rising up to 12% on wealth concentrations above €1 billion. On top of that would come a special one-time wealth tax, also on a graduated scale, that would only impact Germans sitting on fortunes worth more than 2 million euros. The levy's top rate would hit 30%, for awesomely affluent Germans in the proposal's highest wealth bracket. Germany's super rich would see under the Die Link plan a higher inheritance tax on wealth they leave behind. And I believe inheritance taxes should be ridiculously high because, again, you cannot pass, when just passing wealth mean giving monies to people who haven't earned anything. I understand, for family's sake and history's sake, some of that. But again, you can't pass $1 billion down, but we'll go into that at another time. The overall goal of Die Link tax plan, a halving of the wealth of Germany's wealthiest over the next decade. 3 other German parties on the left side of the German politics are also backing tax hikes on the wealthy, but at least not nearly as significant as Die Link. Earlier, before I spoke about this article, I gave you the mathematical reason why we are in an unsustainable condition. If the wealth of those who have capital grow at 7 to 20% or more, and the wealth of the middle class and the working class grows at less than 3%, that means that upper class is cleaning your clock while you are the working class, while you are the ones working. They are making money on the spoils you created. We have to put into our psyche that having capital does not authorize you to be wealthy, because you have capital doesn't authorize you to enslave the rest. And that is what it is, indentured servitude of the rest. Elon Musk's favorite German party, meanwhile, sees nothing wrong in boosting the fortunes of Germany's most fortunate. That is just like what we're doing here in America, constantly giving tax cuts to people who then loan us the money for the deficits created by the tax cuts. Think about it, people. When Tag called in earlier and said, we have to learn when they are ripping us off. We have to learn when they are hoodwinking us. He is absolutely right. We have to understand that it is rigged. It's the reason I wrote the book, How to Make America Utopia. How to Make America Utopia. Take away the economy from those who rigged it. Because, again, we have been living in a rigged economy from the inception of this country. First of all, in the voting methodology of this country, at first, only those who owned land could vote. So it was never really a democracy. As we democratize, the wealthy continue to create instruments to keep us down. And yes, it created a robust middle class under Roosevelt, and do remember at that point taking the tax rate up for graduated tax rate, or rather a marginal tax rate for the highest amount of your income to 90%, which is where we need to get back. To put it bluntly, we need to go beyond 90% on certain types of income. Again, these people didn't do the work to make the money. These people didn't innovate. A lot of you are going to say, well, if we tax them like this, what's going to happen is they're going to put their money elsewhere. Where are they going to go? The innovative mindset is here. The innovative mindset is in the working class around the world. That's where the innovative mindset is at. The innovative mindset doesn't come from the billionaires. I want you to hear me clearly. If it were the billionaires who were creating innovation, I would understand the fear of taking away the money they legally stole. I would understand the fear. But we are so convinced, we are so lied to. You know, the scientists that are working for Exxon and Mobil, the scientists that are working for IBM and all these guys, guess what they are, people? Salaried employees. The innovation, the creation that they come up with, it comes from salaried employees, not billionaires. It comes from salaried employments, the inventions, the patents, all the things that make our society go forward comes from salaried individuals, not billionaires, not the wealthy that sits down at their pool drinking their tea. So anybody who tells you taxing the billions of money that was legally stolen would somehow create a deficit in innovation, they're lying to you. In fact, most innovation occurs at universities and colleges. And when these innovations seem to be something that can be marketed, then comes the corporations and they bribe and they put a building in some professor's name, or all of that kind of stuff occurs then. Remember, corporations by design don't take a whole lot of risks. They take calculated risks that ultimately brings them money. We have to learn these things, my brothers and sisters. We have got to understand that the economy is rigged, that we have been snowed decade after decade from the inception of the country. The economic system was designed to make most people indentured servants and a few at the top. And the only reason that could be maintained is we had to create all the isms that put the working class against each other: racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia. All these things are designed to have us fighting each other so that we don't see the culprit, so that we don't see those who are ripping us off, so that we don't understand the reality of what's going on. And then, of course, you have those with the mindset that, as opposed to say, wow, I just didn't get it, but I get it now. They continue to carry the water for the same people that are ripping them off dry. Folks, wake up, be woke. That is why they don't want critical thinking. That is why they don't want you to be woke. That is why they don't want you to be able to read the books. That's why all these things, all these things in history, they don't want Americans to know. Because if Americans look back and said, did we really do that? Are we really doing that? Most Americans are good people. Most Americans are honorable people. Most Americans have a heart and empathy. But the system has been teaching them otherwise. Let's not fall for it, people. We are at an impasse. We're at a flex point. We're at a turning point. And this is where it's going to take you, all of us, working to get this system right. Because we're going into waters we haven't been. We're going into an area that could reach near irreversibility. But it depends on you using your mind, your common sense to understand what's being done to you and what's being done in your name. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, okay, I guess I'm good. First off, why would the left want to be so angry at Elon Musk for finding $1.2 trillion in theft? That's what he found so far.
Who told you that, sir?
Thank you for cutting me off.
Wait, hold on. Why would you believe him? Why would you believe him?
Because it's on a government website.
It's on what's on the website?
The theft that is found so far. There's like 12 million people that are 150 years old that are on Social Security.
That's a lie.
He found it.
That's a lie.
Look,
let me school you a little bit. Again, that's why I tell you have to do critical thinking.
Don't school me.
You will, well, sir. You will be schooled because it's clear that you need it. That 150 is a code in COBOL. When they don't have a particular set of information, that turns out to 1825, a code in COBOL that doesn't say the person is 150 years old. That's how dumb Elon Musk is. That if he jumps in and he jumps the goat and say, hey, I found somebody that is 150 years old. No, that's a code in the language COBOL that says that. Let's go to Anthony, because I'm not going to entertain silliness today. This is a serious program. Anthony, come on in.
Yeah, you talked earlier about how years ago, only the husband worked, the mother stayed home.
Yes.
I was raised in that generation. I'm a baby boomer.
Yes.
I was raised near Hobby Airport. I'm a visual person. So if anybody doubts what you're saying, all they have to do is go to some of these, neighborhoods that were built in Houston in the 1950s. When they drive down the street, all they're going to see is small 1950s homes that were built after World War II. And they're small. I was raised in a house that was about 1,600 square feet. But the visual thing that they'll notice is that all the houses have one car garage.
Yes.
And that's because back then, only the husband worked.
Exactly.
He's the only one who needs the car. He's the one that went to work every day.
Anthony, I got your point, and I have 2 calls and I only have 2 minutes. So thank you very much. Call me tomorrow, but love your brother for bringing that up. Don, come on in real quick, Don. You got about 30 seconds, Don.
Hey, morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, morning. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, sir.
Hey, my take is very simple. America is broken in many systems. And the biggest problem we have is we don't have a genuine opposition party. We don't have a two-party system that actually is for the benefit of us.
Agreed.
We need to hold the Democratic Party responsible for what happened.
Agreed.
Donald Trump didn't come up in a vacuum. This is because for the past 4 years, we were told lies and we knew something was wrong, but we were told to keep quiet and just vote. That's the problem.
Don, I agree. Let's talk about that tomorrow. I got to go to Bruce. You're absolutely right. Come on in, Bruce.
Yeah. Good morning. Yeah. When Musk and Don are trying to create an economic apartheid, they're getting rid of people that protect us from terrorist attacks. They've been firing FBI people, and it could happen. It could very well happen. The other thing, real quick, is if Donald wants to be a dictator, he can take a potato, stick it down his pants, and look in the mirror. There's your dictator.
There you go. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day, Bruce. All right. Let me throw this right back to Jack in the studio. Let's see before we close this baby out.
You know what they're doing in Bay Cliff about the price of eggs?
What are they doing?
Everybody's buying chickens in chicken coops.
There you go. I love that idea. And, I've been thinking about that. I don't know if my neighbors would like the morning noise. But anyway, thank you very much, Jack. And by the way, thank you, Jack. And you did great going solo, my dear brother. You did great going solo. Anyway, folks, I need to go ahead and close this baby up. Look, we have a lot more to discuss on the things that we need to do to ensure that we stay ahead of this economy, folks. Look, there are some people that are immutable. It's an illness. After you've identified the facts, if you still believe the things that you believe after these are factually proven, we have a problem. But there are more people that are empathetic and are willing to learn. And I know that's who you are. Folks, my name is Egberto. First of all, go to politics, or rather, the rest of the show is at politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics and Right. And you guys know in this baby, I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics and Right, comes from politicsandright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right,